Welcome to Mastering Your Monday podcast. And this is the show that talks about boundaries, work-life balance, and living a life where you have control. This is for highly driven professionals who want to develop a more balanced professional and personal life and live out their true values. Those who are ready to grab the reins and change the status quo. The professional who's ready to have a life again and who's ready to take a stand, living in a way that you feel respected, valued, and fulfilled each and every day. We talk about topics like setting boundaries, taking risks, life management, and all the tips, techniques, and strategies to help you master your Monday, one day at a time. So my mom wasn't around much. In fact, I don't want you to feel sorry for me. It wasn't anything wrong or that, but she worked, dad worked, and I was on my own a lot when I wasn't in school, but not really. We were overseas. My dad was in the military. My mom worked for the exchange. And so I was taken care of by one of the locals over in the Philippines. But that's not what this is all about. The thing is, my mom still made me feel special no matter what, because we had special things that we would do together. You know, the things that we would do together. My mom, no matter how busy she was, she would always do something with me that week. You know, one of the things mom and I used to do is walking. And I love, she would walk. She said, "Want to go for a walk?" And we would go and explore the base. But the big treat about our walk would be at the end of the walk. Well, not the end, the middle of the walk, because the whole purpose was for the walk was to walk down to that golf course. Because what was at the golf course? They had ice cream. So we would walk all the way there for our ice cream cone and then enjoy it all the way back home. But it was so special. And that's one of the big things that I remember doing with my mom. But I also have those memories with my grandmother, is being in the kitchen with her and cooking. Even though she was still taking care of the things she needed to take care of, she allowed me to be a part of that with her. And I got to learn things from her and got to be a part of her world. And then when my grandmother used to go to work, there's a few times that she actually took me there with her, and I loved it. I got to see what grandma did when she was away from us and how she took care of others. I learned so much about my grandmother there. Well, today I love a great conversation. So I want you to come on, pull up a chair because we're going to talk about those special moments, ringside, that is, on this episode today, episode 14, 5 secrets to having a big impact with lots of love on your children when there's little time. And I know you understand what I'm talking about. You know, I wasn't around much either. It's something about being a working mom. And so I traveled a lot in the band. I was in the military. In fact, in the military, they almost, I'd say, make you sign your child away because there's a thing that you have to sign when you're in the military. And especially if you're a single parent that says, if I have to go away to war, this person will take care of my child. And for me, that was my mom. My mom would have to take care of my daughter if I got deployed um, quickly and someone had to take care of my baby. So, this is something that going in the military, you know, and that's something with having a child that you know that may happen. So, what's important is that you have those special moments that count, not the amount of time that you spend with them, but the quality of that time you spend with them. And for me, that was individual attention. So I want to share with you 5 things that I made sure happened with my daughter that left a lasting impression. And she still talks about today, and she's in her 30s. So one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to leave that lasting impression. In fact, I remember watching on TV once, and I'm not even sure what show it was. But I remember watching this particular show, and I remember someone died on this episode. And I remember that the one thing that everyone regretted is they never got to tell that person that they loved them. Each person that they hit on at the end of this episode, that was the thing that stood out to me, that they didn't get to say that final I love you to that person. So for me, it was important. I even said before I had my daughter, my baby will never know or never doubt that I love her. She will always hear those words from my lips. And so that was so important that from day one, I always told my daughter, I love you. I made sure that when we left each other's presence, that was the final thing that we said to each other. Even if we were mad, and even to the day when we hang up the phone, that's the last thing we say. I love you. Even if I'm mad, I'll say, I still love you. And she just smiles because we know, regardless of how we feel at that moment, the love is still there. And so we say before we leave each other present, I love you. And a lot of times, if we haven't been around someone when we first see each other again after a period of time, hey, sweetie, I love you. We just want to know that that's one of the last things that they remember about you is that they are loved and by you. So that's number one. Leave that lasting impression, whatever it may be for you. One of the things I have to tell you this, me and my nephew, I love him. He hated me to say, I love you. He says, oh, come on, Aunt Michelle. That is so, I don't say that. So I says, I tell you what, we're going to have a special saying that's just for us, that when I say it, you know that that's me saying, I love you. He was good with that. So our special saying was, how about them bulls? That's all I had to say. I just had to look at him and say, how about them bulls? And he smiled, this big smile would just take over his face. And he'd smile and say, how about them bulls? So that was our special way of saying, I love you. Number two, lift up with words and deeds. It's okay to show affections, even if it's not what you got. I love hugging my daughter. We hug each other every time we come into contact with each other. We put our hands on each other. I put my hand on her shoulder, whatever. And I love showing her or giving her encouragement for her efforts. So give encouragement for their efforts. Listen to their perspective. That's one of the best ways of lifting up, is to listen to someone else and their perspective on things. You don't have to agree. Now, let me get this straight. You don't have to agree with them, but you can listen to their perspective on how they see things, and you can encourage their efforts. Number three, just show up. Boy, do I have some stories on this one. But I'll tell you, my favorite is my husband and I had to deal with a lot of military, um, what are they called? When we had to go to awards and stuff like that, we would always have to go to those things. And sometimes they would happen because my daughter was in sports. They would happen on a night that she would have a game or something. And we still had to do our military obligations. So I remember this one particular night is we both had a military function to go to, and it was formal. I was in a long dress and he was in his dress blues, and she had a basketball game. And I think it was one of the first ones, or at least one that we knew she would be playing in. So what did we do? We went to the beginning of her basketball game in gown, dress blues, climbed the bleachers, and sat there for 15 or 20 minutes that we had and watched the game as much as we could. Saw her look up there and smile at us, just knowing that we came no matter what we had going on, that we made the time to be there at her game meant the world to her. And we had to leave early. Don't know at that time, didn't know if they won or lost. but we were able to be there at an important time in her life. And that was important for her. So just show up. We did that often. She was in track. We'd make sure sometimes I would be late because I was in the band. My husband would be there. I would show up late. I'd try to show up. I'd know the times that her particular meet or the particular time that she would be running or whatever or doing the jump. I would be there for that. And then I would have to leave or I would just get there in time. But we made sure we showed up for recitals, special programs, the same. Military had a call on our time, but we still made sure we would make those important things. Maybe not there the whole time, but just so she know that she was important enough for us to show up. And then the next one is cultivate a relationship with those who are around them most. Her friends were always welcome at our home. There would always be two or three teenagers sitting out there. Or her friend, even when she was younger from down the street, they would come in the house, they would play on the computer in our home, and then she would go down there and play on the computer there. I knew the parents of her friends, always made sure that I got to know both parents. And I also, male or female, boyfriend or whatever, I would always know who her friends were. And I also knew who her teachers were. We had a wonderful relationship with her teachers, and that they knew that if anything was off, anything was going wrong, they had no hesitation calling Miss O'Neill. Janetta did this, or this happened today, or someone did this to Janetta. They always made sure that we knew what was going on with our daughter because of her teachers. Probably shouldn't have said her name, but that's okay. She didn't mind. And finally, record a special moment or a special memory. And this was really important for me as being in the band. We traveled a lot. And of course, one of the things, I was a vocalist, so I sung. And my daughter had two songs that she loved the most. And one of them I remember was Somewhere, the one from West Side Story. There's a place for us, somewhere, a place for us. So I recorded me singing that for her and the Keep Smiling with Michael Jackson and all those. I recorded both of those songs for her. And she had, back in the day, a little cassette tape that she would take with her whenever she had to stay with the babysitter or anything. She would have that. And she would listen to that tape every evening before she go to bed or anytime she was really missing me. And to this day, that's another thing she still talks about and that she wants to do for her girls and her son. So I just want you to know it's always great. If you're not a person that does song, you can have a special song that you use to dance together or a special video of you doing something together. But this is so important that they have something of you, from you, your voice, your what you look like, that they always have this with you. The thing is to find the thing that means the most and a lot to your child and incorporate that in your life. Take time to do things like cooking together or one of the things I do with my grandchildren is always we like to make donuts together. So we make donuts together. I will always take the time and text them. This morning I sent them a picture that had a meme that had a nice little saying on it. But I also text them just to say, I love you and was thinking of you. Have a fantastic day. I always take the time to do that. It may not be every day, but whenever they cross my mind, I don't only do that with my grandkids and my daughter, because I do it with her too. Still, I also do it with my friends. Also, I homeschooled my daughter. I actually took 3 years and homeschooled her just to have those memories with her. It's not for everyone. It's an extremely hard thing to do, but I did take that time to homeschool her and make sure she understood how special she was. And I love talking world events, not only with her, but with my grandchildren, because I know where their mind is. I understand how they think. And you get to share with them your thought process and what you think. Just recently, I shared something with my daughter, and she said, Mom, I never knew. Take the time to share those things with your children. My daughter, for the longest, said, Mom, I always thought you were so perfect. You never had this. You never did this. You never lied. You never told this. You never said this. And I said, Oh, babe, if only you knew. If only you knew. Talk to your grandmother. She'll tell you a thing or two. But when they see us, they see us as we've grown and learned over the years, but not who we used to be. And they think, my daughter thought for the long I was so perfect. Well, I wasn't. And there are a lot of mistakes that I made in my life. But now, as she's older, I'm taking the time to make sure that I share the things that I can with her so she understands she's not dealing with life alone, that we've all been through it. I am so glad that you were able to hang out with me today for this episode of our Ringside Chat. You are amazing, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit subscribe or follow so you won't miss a single episode. One more thing I want you to do, and that's to visit masteringyourmonday.com/pathway, because there I have links to you of anything you could want. And I have goodies and gifts just for you. Make sure to let me know how I can serve you further. And that's the place to do it. Masteringyourmonday.com/pathway. Until next episode, this is Michelle O'Neill, Mastering Your Monday podcast. Take care. Bye bye. I want to thank you for listening to the Mastering Your Monday podcast. I hope you learned at least one tip or technique you can walk away with and implement today. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show, and let us know how much you enjoyed it and what you learned from this episode. We honor your time and your commitment to Mastering Your Monday podcast. And as always, we want to remind you, you are cherished, respected, valued, and in control. See you on the next episode.